Shirley and I have been knowing each other for over 30 years. And there's a close to 20-year age difference. So a lot of people just assumed we were mother and daughter. We were always good friends. And they assumed because of the age disparity, well, I must be the mother, and Shirley was the daughter. And the other assumption that I had was, well, she's younger than I am, so she'll take care of me when I get old and, you know, can't take care of myself. But we've gone through a lot of things together. I think my first experience with her as a caregiver was I was on a cruise. We were on a vegetarian cruise. We were both vegetarians at the time. And I got really sick. And Shirley was my roommate, so she had to kind of look after me. And when I got off the cruise, I got even sicker. So I was home for about 3 months. And Shirley actually had to cook and bring me meals every day. So that's when I began to appreciate, you know, her as a caregiver. And slowly she got me to start doing for myself, and I got stronger. There was a vegetarian restaurant that we both liked to eat at, so she would inveigle me to get up, get in the car, I'm going to take you to Ohms. And that helped me to get stronger. And I don't know if I've ever thanked you for that, Shirley, but that was an experience I keep in my mind.
Well, I think we've both been caregivers. In fact, before I met you, I took care of my mom for almost 1.5 years. So I know how tough it can be. It's just exhausting. It takes everything you've got. But I did learn from it, thankfully. But after taking care of her, what happens is I got completely ill. And I could not do anything. And that is the first time you were my caregiver, because even though we didn't know each other like we know each other now, I was sick, and you knew my mother because my mother was sick at the same time, and you were like doing little things. Like I'd go to the hospital and you'd be there, which helped me because I was the only family member able to really take care of her. And I had the kids, and it was driving me crazy. We were running each other crazy. But you would show up and you'd have little heating trays for my mother, and I'm like, oh, the food's gonna be cold. And you go, no, I got a heating tray. And it surprised me because most people aren't that thoughtful, and you were very thoughtful.
Thank you.
And I was happy. And then I became horribly ill, and you helped me through that, because remember, that was the first time the doctors gave me up. They said, we don't know what's wrong with you, but you're not gonna last much longer at this rate. And we went to the holistic doctor, and in order for me to eat the food, because it was horrible to me, you decided to eat it with me. And it's funny because you never stopped. And after I got better, I just went off the rails, but I came back, but you continued to. And I think it made a difference in how you were feeling, because you were eating at specialty places. I remember you started eating at the vegetarian restaurant. And that really helped, because as long as you have a friend going there with you, like, oh, it's not that bad. I'm like, this is horrible. It's not that bad.
Do you remember that I started you eating fish?
Yes.
Because she said, oh, I don't eat fish, too many bones.
Soup too.
And soup. And at this restaurant that we went to, they made a very good salmon, and they had good soup. And I said, oh, Shirley, just try it, just try it. And then I couldn't get her off of it. She loved the salmon, and she loved the soup. So we were good influences on each other at that point, you know.
I never thought that I would be as ill as I've been, ever, because I was young. I was very young. And so when I got the information that I had a tumor, and that they were going to have to do something to get rid of it. I did not know or expect anyone to have to take care of me. I'm this independent person. I figured I'd go there, I'd get the surgery, I'd come home, I'd rest, I'd be fine. But what happened is, of course, not quite that way. So you went with me to the doctor. I didn't want that. I was just such an independent, and I think you could deal with that. A lot of people couldn't deal with that because they try to help me, but I couldn't accept the help because I'm so used to doing things on my own, and I didn't trust people helping me. I think that was the other thing. And you were nice and helpful. I was like, and instead of being like that, I should have been happy and all those things, but you lived through that. You did, because I did give you a hard time. I know that.
Yes, you did.
Gave you a very hard time.
She's a very hard person to be a caregiver for.
Oh, my daughter cares for me too, and she thinks the same thing. I wanted to say she thinks the opposite, but it's natural though. But she just ignores me, just like now you do. I mean, if I'm giving you a hard time, she says, "Here, take this soup and eat it," and she goes back out the door. But we've been through a lot. Even recently, you had a problem. I remember when your brother actually wanted to send you a nurse and all this, put you somewhere, and you said, "No, Shirley can take care of me." I'm like, "Who, what?" But it worked. It worked.
Well, that's what years will do.
Yeah.
Because I do remember that. My brother loves me and he wanted to take care of me, but he had no clue about what I needed. He wanted to put me someplace where he said, "You can stay in bed and rest all day." That was the last thing I needed.
I know.
But in his mind, that's, and he started writing checks. We're going to, and Shirley was already there. She'd already prepared a meal for me.
Clean the house.
And cleaned the house, and she was sitting there. And he's telling me, "No, Edith, we're going to put you in this place and you're going to rest and get rid of it." And I said, "But Shirley is already doing that. She's taking care of me right here, and I don't want to go there," So he finally got the message. And
well, when he came in the apartment and he said, "This place has never looked this good."
Yes, my brother was so
funny.
impressed with the apartment.
It was funny.
That was because Shirley had come and cleaned it and made it very, nice and cozy. So this isn't following sequence, but it just came to mind when you were getting chemo.
Oh.
And I would go and sit with her. At one point, always in the chemo, they gave you, what was it, Benadryl. They would give her this heavy chemo, and then at some point they said, "Well, all right, it's time for your Benadryl." And while they were injecting the Benadryl, guess who fell asleep?
She always did. She always
fell asleep. When they were giving her the Benadryl, I would fall asleep.
And she'd be just as out. I would say, "Wait, did any Benadryl get in me?"
No, I don't know how that happened.
It happened every time.
But even the nurse would say, "Look, she's out." I would kind of hear that. It was always at Benadryl time.
That's right. That's right.
I guess it's mind over matter. But anyway, I just throw that out as a little anecdote. But
well, as a friend, and they assumed you were my mother. They would always look for you too. "Where's your mom?" And if I'd come by myself, I said, "I don't know." But they would wait. "Oh, she'll be here." And you were that dependable. They said, "Oh, she'll be here." Because one time I started coughing a whole bunch from reaction of the chemos. And they said, "Call the mother." And I didn't want them to. I didn't want them to disturb you, still being Miss Independent. So they held off on it. But the mere thought that you were the one that all the nurses knew and were going to turn to, I thought really surprised me. It had made an impression.
Well, I was the one they saw, because Stacy worked during the day, plus she has a young child. So I would be the one bringing you to.
Two at that time.
Two. I would bring you to your appointment. So I was the person they saw.
Yeah.
So they assumed that, well, I should be the person to call, for something. We had become so very close, and I just didn't even think about it. I had to do what I had to do. And the Lord had to take care of it, but I just had to be there at least. That's the least I could do, to be there.
To know. That's what it is. You always had to know all the details. You couldn't just come and do it. You have to, well, why and what, and that used to drive me crazy.
You didn't want me to sit there like a statue.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah, I did at that time.
And you had the wrong caregiver.
I know. But it's been so long now that we're very used to each other's behavior. But one of the things that happens that I don't like is when I am sick. The sicker I am, the meaner I am. And I know that, but because of whatever, the pain or the medication or whatever, it's like a not controlled thing. You practice, you say, tomorrow I am not going to be this way. And then the person who cares about you the most, be it you or my daughter, they come in and you bite their heads off about nothing. And it's all because of the pain that you're going through, or you give yourself that leeway and an excuse, because it is tremendously different between each individual, what they're feeling when they're going through their illness. Some feel very little, some are stoic and can put up with it, and then there's others who just know, they want everybody to know, they want everybody to feel it, do something. And so it's a different experience for every caregiver, I think. Taking care of you is because you are now, getting older, and you're doing things differently. Not worse, just different in the way I see it. And so when I tell you something, and then you said, oh, I did that, and I can look and see you, no, you did not do that. You did this. And then you said, well, I didn't hear you. And it used to drive me crazy, but I called Vicki, my friend Vicki, before she passed away, and she's the one that explained that to me. She says, well, she's getting older. She's not trying to deliberately drive you crazy. I was like, she's driving me crazy. You just, no, you just have to pay more attention to what is happening and then work with that. And it helped. She was right. She was right.
Something else and I think you're beginning to understand, is that as you get older, you want to feel more independent, not less independent.
Right.
And people may be telling you things, and that what they're telling you may be right, but you want to assert your independence and the fact that I'm older, and you have to let me do it my way, even if it's the wrong way.
Yes.
Like when I left your house the other day, I heard what you said, but I said, I have to do this my way. It's my way of holding on to something of independence. And I recognize that sometimes that's at my inconvenience, because if I just listened, I wouldn't be in this. But I just had to do it my way, Shirley.
Well, you wouldn't call me at midnight and say, Shirley, I don't know where I am, but I'm at 0. I'm like, how? How? Now
I told you how to go. Why are you over there?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
But I understand that. I really do.
But you bring out a point about how you get when you're in pain and very, very sick. And it makes me, as a caregiver, feel very helpless, because whatever I think I'm doing, like when you couldn't eat, but you didn't know what you wanted to eat, but it could only be at a certain window, And I'd run out and buy things. Oh, she'll like this. She'll get there, and Shirley, take that away. I can't even stand to smell it.
Sometimes, though, Edith, I would tell you what to get. I would tell you what I want, and I'd be doggone if you wouldn't get what you wanted and what you wanted me to have and what you thought was best. And so, no, I couldn't eat that. Like, you eat that, because I can't, that's not what I wanted. But this is good. This has healthy greens. I remember that package, just healthy greens are inside. I don't want healthy greens. What I asked you for was some fried chicken wings. And that's what I wanted. You know, you're like, oh.
All that grease.
Just shook your head, you know. Well, then don't tell me you're going to get me my food, because then you're not getting me my food, you're getting you your food. And you sat there and you eat it too. You always did that. You would sit and eat the food in front of me that you got, that you knew I wasn't going to, you're not going to eat this anyway. And so I'm like, I would be hungry for that day, or unless Stacy came. And sometimes I felt you were oblivious to it. Like, okay, she's full, she's going home now, but I still haven't eaten. And I don't think you did it on purpose to be mean or anything. I just think you were oblivious to some of that.
That could be.
And when I called Stacy and my daughter, she'd say, didn't Edith just leave there? I said, yeah. I'll be there later on. Well, that became very bad for me. And I had to really finally say to my doctor, admit me in the hospital. And he said, why? Are you? I said, because I'm not getting any food. I'm not getting anything to eat, and if I don't eat soon, it's going to be horrible. And he admitted that was the first time when I was in the cancer center, yeah. And so after 1 week, all they did is fed me, and I was fine. They didn't change medications. They did add one at the end, but that was after I got out. They added one. And as I got stronger, I could fix my own food. But at the time, I couldn't do that.
That's right.
I wasn't able to stand up long enough because the tumors had increased in the lungs. So I had to have someone else not only fix the food, but bring the food. Now, you were great at that. You were great at it. Once it was fixed, I was always scared for you to be in my kitchen. Out here.
Two things: she can't stand my driving, and she can't stand my cooking. Now, how can that be there? I mean, taking her to chemo, she drove herself because she didn't like my driving. She could be as sick as a dog, and she would push me into the passenger seat and say, "I'm driving." Now, what can I do with that except sit in the passenger seat?
Just know that I wasn't going to have high blood pressure when I got there, but it works. It works.
Well, we're still here to talk about it, I guess.
Yeah, and it amazes me sometimes that we're still here to talk about it. I mean, I have driven really at times when I really didn't want to drive. It was only 1 or 2 times I just said, here, you got to take the wheel. And believe me,
when you were under the drugs,
I was so sick.
Yeah.
We'd gone to the restaurant, and I know I hadn't eaten,
I remember
and
that
then
time.
I just laid out in the back. That's when I knew I was really sick, when I didn't take the wheel. I said, I can't do it.
I knew it too, because she never lets me drive. So
that was it.
She must really be sick.
Yeah. And I'm always happy to know, I mean, it's comfortable to know that there's this one person that you can depend on, no matter what, to help you. I mean, and because I know sometimes my daughter will say, I'll be there in an hour, and you may see her in 3, but she does have 50 million things going on, whereas I know if I call you, you're gonna be there. Even if you're in meetings, there's been time when you've been in meetings, there's been time when it's been completely inconvenient for you to actually answer a call from me, but you've done it And so I appreciate that very much. I don't think you think I notice, but I do. And I've even told people, say, well, she's blah, blah, blah. You know, you call over to get you at your office. And I said, I don't care. Could you interrupt that, please?
They know by now. If they see Shirley's name or hear her, they don't even stop to think about it. Get Edith, Shirley's on the phone. My friends and all know, you know, that the relationship is such that, you know, if Shirley is calling or Shirley needs her, she's going to go. They don't even question it.